Imagine someone who filled the world with electricity, made radios, microwaves, even mobile phones possible. Yet very few people know his name. That man, James Clerk Maxwell, wasn't just a physicist, he was a genius who could see the unseen. Let's uncover 10 incredible facts about Maxwell, but listen closely when we get to fact 6. It will blow your mind. Fact 1. He saw the invisible, the hidden code. Let's imagine England in the 1800s. Electricity was just being discovered. No light bulbs, no phones, no radios. People had no idea why a magnet pulls iron. Why does electricity sometimes shock us and sometimes doesn't? Where does light even come from? These were unanswered questions. But there was one young scientist who could see the invisible forces in his mind. He imagined that there must be a hidden law connecting all of it, like the universe itself ran on a secret code. And the person who first cracked that code was James Clerk Maxwell. He brought together the world's two strangest forces, electricity and magnetism, and explained them with just 4 equations. These 4 equations were like the electrical language of the universe. They showed that electricity and magnetism aren't two separate things. They're like a lost couple, always inside each other. And here's what's truly mind-blowing. When Maxwell wrote these equations, people didn't even know how to send a signal through the air. But he had already proven that invisible waves travel through space. Waves we now call radio signals. From those invisible waves came radio, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, even television. Maxwell saw the future, and although his name might not be familiar today, you've just discovered someone who helped build the world we live in. Fact 2. He was the first person to truly understand Saturn's rings. When we look at Saturn with the naked eye, its rings look like a delicate line, a thin, perfect band circling the planet like a piece of jewelry. But for centuries, no one actually understood what they were, until James Clerk Maxwell solved the mystery. Not with a telescope, but with the power of pure mathematics. He proved something revolutionary. Saturn's rings could not be solid. They couldn't be a single disk either. If they were, gravity would tear them apart and they would crash into the planet. Instead, Maxwell showed that Saturn's rings are made of millions of tiny particles, each orbiting separately. Together, they look like a ring, but they never actually touch. At first, scientists didn't believe him. It was too advanced for the time. But more than 100 years later, NASA confirmed that Maxwell had been right all along. By then, he was long gone. But somewhere in the vastness of space, you can almost imagine him smiling. This wasn't just scientific genius. It was a moment where one man opened the door to one of the most beautiful secrets in the universe. Fact 3. The genius physicist who wrote poetry. Many people think of James Clerk Maxwell as just a physicist, a master of equations, numbers, and theories. But there was another side to him, the heart of a poet. Since childhood, Maxwell wasn't only passionate about science, he also loved to write poetry. He wrote both serious poems and funny ones, often in the Scottish dialect, full of clever wordplay, humor, and imagination. His students and friends loved them. What made his poetry special was how he could mix deep, scientific ideas with humor and emotion. He didn't just want to understand the universe. He wanted to feel its beauty and express it in language as well as in math. To Maxwell, science wasn't just cold formulas. It was a kind of art. His poems remind us, being a great scientist isn't only about logic. It's also about having a soul that's creative, curious, and full of wonder. Fact 4. He was the first to calculate the speed of light with an equation. There's something unique about science. Most of the time, we see the results, but forget the revolutions in thinking behind them. James Clerk Maxwell sparked such a revolution. He turned light itself into a formula. For centuries, scientists tried to understand the mystery of light. Newton passed it through a prism. Faraday explored the magic of electricity and magnetism. But these puzzle pieces were still scattered. Then Maxwell came, like invisible glue, and connected them. He demonstrated how electric and magnetic fields are interlinked, and how they travel through space as waves. And here's where the miracle happened. When Maxwell simplified his equations, A number suddenly appeared. When he saw it, he froze. Approximately 299,792,458 meters per second. It was the speed of light. Other scientists had tried to measure it, but Maxwell was the first person in history to calculate it using pure mathematics. Imagine that, discovering the universe's fastest phenomenon just by thinking. It's like turning the silent music of the cosmos into written notes. This discovery changed the entire direction of physics. His equations weren't just formulas. They were the language of the universe. And Maxwell? He was the first to speak it. Fact 5. Scientists were shocked when they measured his brain. The unexpected result during his lifetime. Maxwell was already being called the second Newton. When he passed away, his brain was taken to the University of Edinburgh to be studied, out of scientific curiosity. At the time, many scientists believed there was a direct connection between intelligence and brain size. The bigger the brain, the greater the genius, or so they thought. Surely Maxwell, the founder of statistical mechanics, quantum ideas, and electromagnetism, would have an unusually large, heavy brain. But the results said otherwise. His brain weighed approximately 1,390 grams, completely average for a man of his time. In fact, according to some charts, that weight corresponded with average intelligence. The scientific community was stunned. How could someone so brilliant, a man whose ideas reshaped the world, have such an ordinary brain? This moment became a turning point in science. It shattered the idea that intelligence was about size. Instead, it highlighted the importance of how the brain is wired, how it processes information, and how creative the mind is, not how heavy it is. Maxwell proved that it's not the size of the brain, but the power of thought that changes the world. Fact 6. It was Maxwell, not Marconi, who sparked the birth of radio. The world credits Guglielmo Marconi as the inventor of the radio. That's what we were taught in school. But the truth, known by very few, is far more astonishing. It was actually James Clerk Maxwell who laid the foundation of radio. Maxwell developed the theory of electromagnetic waves, born from the union of electricity and magnetism. These waves didn't just exist in equations. They were traveling invisibly through the air, like a secret language of the universe. And Maxwell was the first to understand and decode this silent cosmic song. Later, Heinrich Hertz tested Maxwell's theory in the lab and proved it was true. So the very idea that radio signals, invisible streams of information, could travel through space was first grasped by Maxwell. Marconi, he simply built the machine. In other words, Maxwell wrote the theory, Hertz believed it, Marconi built it. Sadly, history often remembers the person who presses the final button, not the one who took the first step. But the true hero is always the one who started the journey. Fact 7. His intelligence couldn't be measured. Even as a child, James Clerk Maxwell was unlike anyone else. At just 8 years old, he wasn't playing with toys in the backyard. Instead, he tied a string to a point, dipped it into water, and began calculating fluid pressure. Yes, a child trying not just to observe nature, but to understand and explain it. Later in university, his professors would say things like, "When Maxwell asks a question, you don't feel like a student is speaking. It feels like the universe itself is asking to reveal its secrets." Sometimes not even his teachers could understand his explanations. While others were taking lecture notes, Maxwell would be sketching spirals in the corner of his page. And inside those spirals, he was quietly building new laws of physics. And here's the wild part. Maxwell's IQ was never officially measured. IQ tests didn't exist in his time. But based on modern analysis, experts estimate that if tested, his IQ would have exceeded 190. That would place him among the smartest people in human history. Yet he wasn't just a scientist who worked with formulas. He was a poet of nature, someone who felt the rhythm of the universe. His genius couldn't be contained in a room, a class, or a single equation, because Maxwell didn't just belong to his era. He belonged to the future. Fact 8. The magic of color. The first color photograph in history. James Clerk Maxwell wasn't only known for his groundbreaking theories. He changed not only physics, but also the future of photography. In 1861, he took the first color photograph in history. What was it a picture of? Just a piece of tartan ribbon. But Maxwell wasn't just snapping a photo, he was demonstrating how light and color combined to create an image. By carefully layering red, green, and blue light, he revealed something the world had never seen before: a color image captured through science. Maxwell was a physicist, but with this act, he also became the father of our colorful visual world, opening the door to every vibrant image we see today. Fact 9. He united magnetism and electricity. James Clerk Maxwell. Before Maxwell, electricity and magnetism seemed like two separate miracles. Electricity could light a lamp, while a magnet could attract a needle. But imagining that these two forces were connected was like discovering a hidden bond between the sky and the earth. Maxwell was one of the first people to think about these mysteries together. He was inspired by the experiments of Michael Faraday, but he did something Faraday hadn't. He turned those experiments into numbers and equations. Maxwell showed that a changing electric field creates a magnetic field, and vice versa. A changing magnetic field generates an electric field. This cycle was like an endless dance of energy. One could not exist without the other. This unity became known as electromagnetism, and Maxwell was the man who wrote the mathematical union of these forces. His equations went so deep, they became like a sacred text of physics. So behind the technology we use every day, there stands a quiet and remarkable mind. The man who united electricity and magnetism. James Clerk Maxwell. Fact 10. Maxwell's famous lifetime clockwork routine. He lived his life down to the second James Clerk. Maxwell's daily life followed a strict rhythm. But it wasn't just about discipline. He truly lived his life minute by minute, second by second. For example, he always ate breakfast at the same hour with the same menu. When he went for a walk, he followed the same path and returned at the exact same time. Even while working in the laboratory, he would time his thinking breaks with precision. His students would often joke, "If Maxwell is 5 minutes late, something must have gone wrong with the universe." This obsession with time was deeply connected to how his mind worked. Maxwell had a systematic and rhythmic way of thinking. He disliked chaos and wanted to feel the order hidden in the universe. And to do that, he first created order in his own life. And these were some of the most unique facts about James Clerk Maxwell. Genius isn't just found in formulas. It lives in the strange habits, the emotions, and the human soul itself. If you learned something new in this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Tell us in the comments, how different did Maxwell seem to you, and who should we talk about in the next video? Stay with Curioverse, because here, history doesn't stay silent. It speaks.